Hello, everybody. For those of you who are followers of my channel, this will be a little bit different vibe. Um, right now, I'm just here to talk about the eosinophilic esophagitis diagnosis, disease, condition, plague that I found out I had in March of this year, 2023. There's not a lot of, so the condition is called EOE for short. So that's what I'll call it throughout this. But it stands for eosinophilic esophagitis. Esophagitis simply is an inflammation of the esophagus. Eosinophilic refers to the eosinophils, or white blood cells that are attacking the esophagus, causing it to inflame and swell and become narrow. But we'll get to all that. There's not a lot of videos on EOE on YouTube. If they are, they're short. They don't talk about, they don't follow anybody throughout their experience with the, illness. They just kind of, introduce it, and these are 3-minute videos. So when I was desperate for information, I couldn't find anything on YouTube anyways. I was desperate for a success story. I was desperate for, watching somebody, have the condition and cope with it and live with it, and more importantly, thrive with it, not just exist as I was doing. We'll get to that. So I think for me, this began decades ago. I know back in 2008, I was eating at a restaurant and swallowed probably too big of a mouthful of food, and it got stuck and it wouldn't go down. And I have a really, really touchy gag reflex. So as soon as food got stuck, I started to, try to throw it up right in the middle of a restaurant. And I remember running outside and throwing up outside, and the food was still stuck. Then I went into the bathroom of the restaurant and tried to drink some water. And I remember putting a little bit of water from the sink in my hand and swallowing it, which was just never gonna push the food down at all, but I had no idea. And I threw up in the bathroom, but again, the food wasn't coming out. So I ended up going to the hospital, and and I was terrified. I mean, I didn't know what was going on. I could breathe, I just couldn't, swallow. So, while I'm in the hospital for 2 or 3 hours waiting for a procedure, I was throwing up every 15 minutes, and it was my own secretions, because they wouldn't go down. So they would kind of, it's really gross, but if the blockage is here, the secretions go down, and a little bit of them get through, but they pile up and you throw up. It's horrible. So they ended up having to bring a GI doctor in, and he put me under and scoped the food down my throat. And at that time told me that I needed a dilation, an esophagus dilation. And I was young, and I was fine after that. Like, I thought I was fine. Everything was fine. I didn't do the dilation. I saw a GI doctor. He told me my throat looked fine, and that was it. Well, that was 2008. It happened again in 2015, where food got stuck and I couldn't get it down. Had to go back to the hospital. They did another endoscopy, pushed the food down, referred me to a GI doctor. I was dumb and didn't go, and that was it. I didn't know that this was going to be a thing. Those 2 food impactions required hospitalizing. or hospital intervention anyways. But there were many more food impactions that I got up myself. Food would get stuck. I'd start, hurling, and I'd get it out, avoiding the hospital. I just thought, I diagnosed myself and said I have a narrow esophagus. That was it, which I did, but I didn't know why. And I didn't think there was a reason why. I just figured anatomically I had a narrow esophagus. And so I always had to drink while eating. Always. I wouldn't even risk food without beverage nearby. And a lot of times, many times throughout a meal, I would have to, what I developed and invented and called power swallow, where, I'd be eating, let's say, a piece of steak, and I would swallow it, and I wasn't choking, but I would have to drink some soda, usually something carbonated, and like really just take a bigger gulp than usual and swallow the bigger gulp more than usual. Meaning like I wasn't sipping my drink. I'd have to take in more liquid and then like boom, really forcefully swallow, and then the food would go down, and I was fine with it. I was fine. I didn't care that I had to do that. Well, and I was eating. Trust me, I was not without food. I weighed about 217 pounds, which isn't, obese, but I ate what I wanted when I wanted, and ate a lot of junk food, and ate in the car, and drank a ton of soda and beer and all sorts of stuff. Then in March of 2023, I was eating at home, and twice food would kind of linger, and then I would just do my swallow thing and it would be gone. But it was like, this has happened like 3 or 4 times in a row, before I ended up getting diagnosed with anything. So it happened like 3 or 4 days in a row. It happened a few times during a meal. And I was like, this is not the usual swallowing issue. So then still in March, the swallowing, just regular swallowing without food, started to be a problem. So my esophagus was starting to swell, and it was difficult and uncomfortable and scary to swallow water. So I wasn't eating. I stopped eating in March of 2023. And I would say that I described it as like tracking the liquid. So I would take a drink of something and I would track it, and it would stop and then trickle down, or it would go slowly down. It wouldn't clear my esophagus instantly. I could, and I was really zoned into it. I could feel it happening, and it was awful. And the anxiety was through the roof for this, because I had no idea what was going on. I went to the hospital, and they did an emergency endoscopy the next day. And I really had to perform at the hospital. I had to make them feel my concern, because hospitals nowadays, they're not helpful. They're overbooked, and people are trying to get you in and out quickly. And I don't know, I just don't have much faith in medical interventions today. So I had to convince them that I needed to be scoped immediately. And so they did it the next day, and after a bit, they told me that I had this eosinophilic esophagitis. And so basically what that means is EOE is you're allergic to something. The belief is that you're allergic to something. And when you eat that something, your esophagus reacts, and white blood cells attack the esophagus to fight off this invading allergen, right? And as the white blood cells, or the eosinophils, attack the esophagus, your esophagus inflames, right? And it swells. And constant swelling and inflammation of the esophagus can cause a permanent narrowing of the esophagus, those are called strictures. So nobody was, none of the doctors that I saw were like concerned. They were going to start me on like an antacid, and that was it. But I couldn't swallow, I couldn't eat, and that's when the second half of this illness kicked in, the mental health aspect of it. The anxiety was unbelievable. I shut down in March and April and a lot of May of 2023. I shut down. I lost 50 pounds because I wasn't eating. I wasn't eating partially because my esophagus was inflamed, and I wasn't eating partially because my anxiety was killing my appetite. Anxiety led to depression, and I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't work a lot. I worked for myself, so I would, take myself out of work and also out of an income. So I was dying in March, April, and May. All kinds of awful thoughts about life in March, April, and May. Then I saw a doctor in, I think, April. I was searching for another GI doctor, and I found one in April or May, and we had a phone visit, a televisit over the phone. And he changed my meds. So he put me on they're called PPIs. They're very heavy acid blockers, acid suppressors, because acid is contributing to the eosinophils attacking the esophagus. So they first try to control the acid. Well, that is fine. I'm on something called lansoprazole. So I take that twice a day. And he also took me off of wheat, soy, egg, and dairy. That's the 4-food elimination diet. There's a 6-food elimination diet and an 8-food elimination diet, and then there's a food elimination diet entirely, because they want to try to figure out what's causing the allergy. Now, I don't have any food allergies. Okay, I never have. But apparently food allergies and EOE allergies are different. If you've been able to drink a glass of milk your entire life and everything was fine, your face didn't blow up, you didn't get itchy, it's different. Your esophagus can be allergic to. I don't know. That's the problem. Nobody knows. So I don't know. I started to feel better in June, and I realized that the anxiety was absolutely contributing to the physical sensations, and the physical sensations were contributing to the anxiety. So I was in this horrible circle. I was super aware of any feeling that was going on in my throat, anything, and super aware of how long it took food to go down. My weight stopped at about 168. That's been the lowest that I weighed. So from 217 to 168 in 2 months. And then I had another endoscopy in June or July, I think June. And the doctor told me that I had no more eosinophils in my esophagus. And he said, you're okay now. And I did not feel anywhere near okay. I still felt swollen. And so the anxiety kind of decreased, but then came back up again, because regardless of the diagnosis, regardless of the no eosinophils in my throat, I still felt swollen and I still felt anxious, and therefore, I wasn't well. I did eliminate those 4 foods: egg, wheat, soy, and dairy. And that helped. But I don't know which 1 or 2 or 3 or all are the culprit. I have no idea. To this day, I don't know. there's a couple of other meds out there that they will try if the PPI doesn't work. There's a steroid that you swallow, a liquid steroid that you swallow called budesonide, and that is supposed to reduce inflammation and control the swelling and whatever it's supposed to do. And then for really bad cases, there's a med. It's injectable and it's almost impossible to get. If you have decent insurance, it's going to cost you $1,200 for a copay. If you have poor insurance, don't even bother. It's going to be about $5,000. You can't get it at a pharmacy. You know, you have to fight the system. Your doctor has to fight for it, and then maybe you get it, and then figure out a way to pay for it. I'm not even thinking of that. So the PPI seemed to be working for me, and the 4-food elimination diet seemed to be working for me. Well, July was a great month. July, the anxiety disappeared and my appetite increased. And I've been eating a ton of food. Everything is swallowable now. I still feel something different about my throat, whether it's a swollen feeling, a tight feeling, a dry feeling, whatever it is, that does happen consistently. As I sit here right now, my throat actually feels pretty fine. Feels fine. I have been adding back for I've tried to add back soy. I love sushi with a ton of soy sauce on it. And soy is also in everything else too. So I got some gluten-free Oreo cookies that have soy in them, and I ate them. And I thought that I felt a little bit more swollen than usual the next day. Did I? Or is it mental? I don't know. I've added wheat here and there. I had, what did I have? Did I have regular bread? I don't think I've ever had regular bread since this happened, but I know that I've had some stuff with wheat in it. Pancakes, I had a pancake. And again, the next day, I think that I feel a little bit more swollen than usual, but I don't know. Dairy I have had in weird ways, like I tried some chips with milk in them, like Doritos, and I haven't had any reaction to that. And egg, I don't think I've had any reaction to either. But it's hard to say because it's not like I feel 100% symptom-free at any point. So if I already feel something swollen and I eat an egg and I still feel swollen tomorrow, was it the egg or is it just kind of the way this is going to be? Very strange. Carbonation still bothers me. I can't, look, for people who've seen my channel, I've chugged a beer here and there, and not even that, but a Pepsi or a soda. I can't chug carbonation at all. I can't even take you know how you grab a drink and boom, 1 swallow, 2 swallow, 3 swallow. That was good. I can't do that. I can do that with Gatorade. I can do that with, non-carbonated stuff, but I can't do it with soda. Even as I sit here today, I can't do it with soda or beer or anything like that. Which I guess, okay, but why? What's the deal? Is it psychological? That part I don't think. I don't know. There's still some consistent irritation in my throat. But I don't know. So the mental game is the part that has to be controlled with this. The anxiety that destroys an appetite has to be controlled with this. The panic and that has to be controlled. That was the biggest problem for me, was dealing with the anxiety and almost losing the will to go on. I mean, this was difficult to, because we're talking about swallowing here. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to go on a food tube? Am I not even going to be able to swallow, my own saliva? I mean, how do you live with a completely closed off esophagus, which, that's where my brain was going. Your esophagus is going to close. You're never going to be able to swallow. So it was pretty bad. I don't know why I feel so good in July and why I feel so good in August, but I do. And I've been eating, and the weight is coming back on. I don't know how much I want to put back on, but it's coming back on. Um, I'm going places, I'm doing things. I haven't eaten out yet. I haven't sat in a restaurant and eaten, whatever. I'm not comfortable with that right now. So, I don't know. Took the kids to an amusement park a couple days ago and ate a hot dog on a piece of bread. So I did eat a wheat bun on Saturday. I'm making this video on Wednesday. I ate some wheat on Saturday, and I think I was okay. I mean, I don't know. But anyway, that's what this illness is, and that's what it's done. But I couldn't be happier with how I feel in July and August. It's given new hope for a little bit of a normal future. We'll see. I'm going to stay on the PPI, no doubt. I'm going to stay on it. I don't care, and I might just prescribe myself some budesonide and take that myself just to help with inflammation. If the steroid is supposed to help, it's not an injected steroid. It goes into it doesn't go into your bloodstream. It goes into your stomach and out your body. So I'm not worried about any long-term stuff with that because I'm just swallowing it. I'm not getting it, shot into me or anything. So anyway, that's EOE. Do yourself a favor, stay offline, stay off the internet on it. Don't go into the chat forums. Don't go into the support groups. Don't do any of that stuff. It will make things worse for you. I guarantee it. That's what I did, and it was awful. Find somebody who has it. Talk to somebody who has it. A real person, not a forum, not a chat board. Talk to me if you want. Ask questions down below if you have any questions. This was not this was a shortened, as informative as I could get in 20 minutes. But I'm coming out on the other side of it. Things are good. Again, I don't know how much weight I want to gain back. I was bigger. I think I want to stay a little healthier, so maybe I'll be at 180. But the appetite is back like crazy, so I'm eating a ton, which I should probably watch. But anyway, that's EOE, and we'll go back to our regularly scheduled New Age Revolution programming tonight. Good night now.